Hi, my name is Matt Numrich, and I want to go ahead and kind of go over this video today, which, ideally we're calling kind of a hook defense off the flinch or flinch reaction. Let's first of all talk about a flinch reaction, exactly what I mean there. Flinch reaction is what's going to normally happen to almost every human being when they're attacked, okay? Their body's going to go into protection mode, which usually boils down to their knees are going to bend, okay? They're going to go ahead and crunch in a little bit, and their hands are going to go straight up. So when we go ahead and we talk about our flinch reflex, if I go ahead and I turn around and someone barrels back and is throwing a hook at me, my body's naturally going to make this kind of a movement. Okay, all right? And a lot of people go ahead, they kind of get self-conscious about that. When they're sparring around, their body reacts, or maybe they're even doing some scenario sparring of some sort, and their body kind of reacts because they don't exactly know what's coming at them. They get a little embarrassed, and they say, oh, geez, I should have known to do this, I should have known to do this. Listen, you're a human being, and this is how the human body reacts under stress. When surprised by something, you're going to go ahead and you're going to see this kind of reaction. Once again, knees are going to bend, a little bit of crunch forward, and the hands are going to come up. Now, your body's doing that for a very, very important reason. It's protect mainly your vital organs, okay? The first thing we're doing is our knees bend. If you ever heard, the term, your knees buckle a little bit, that's kind of what we're talking about right here. But all it's doing is your body is naturally lowering its center of gravity to prepare itself against some kind of, like I said, either a push or let's say a takedown or a punch, some kind of attack. The second thing that our body does is it crunches in a little bit. Yes, it hides our abs. It also protects our groin a little bit when we go ahead and we do that. So our knees bend, our body crunches, and our hands go up. Now, why do our hands go up? For the obvious. It's obviously protecting our face. So when we do that, this, a lot of times, is where we're going to be starting our self-defense strategy from. And when we go ahead and we start getting into scenario sparring, we want to either go ahead and force ourselves to get into that, or just make ourselves get into that and then start from right here. Now, before I go any farther, does this look like anything? Well, it looks like our defensive stance. So if your defensive stance from traditional martial arts maybe starts off like this is not how the body reacts to stress. Even if I go ahead and I take, let's say, a regular boxing stance or something like this, okay? Once again, this may not look like a flinch reflex. So we want to go ahead and we want to mimic that as much as possible into our defensive structure. So when we go ahead and we start sparring around, whether it's going against a heavy bag or a partner or whatever, I want you to start like this a little bit more. Okay, why? Because we want to get as close as possible of the starting point that we first realize, oh, something's happening, right? I'm going ahead and I now have to defend myself. The reason why I'm bringing it up here is because I want to go ahead and I want to blend that flinch reflex in with how do we defend up against the hook. Why are we talking about the hook? Well, because when you talk about the hook, you're talking about pretty much the most common kind of attack out in the street. Yes, do we see takedowns? Of course. Do we see pushes? Of course. Do we see someone coming on in and throwing a jab and a cross? Absolutely. But if I go ahead and I line up, let's say, 1,000 street fights and I say, listen, what is the most common move that is usually thrown? It's usually this hook. And I would love to say that it's a perfect little Mike Tyson hook, but guess what? It's not. It's usually the drunken sailor haymaker hook. That's what we kind of want to envision right here. That's what we're going to be seeing out in the streets. And what we want to do is we want to go ahead and we want to blend our flinch reflex with how to defend against that. And we're going to go over 3 particular ways and how to do that. But you're going to notice each and every one is going to start right from here. So if I go ahead and I have Justin out here, the first one we're going to do is what's called the crash. The crash is simply moving into close quarters. It's the one that I like the most for a couple different reasons. First of all, I know that I'm going to flinch, okay? But I also know that I love close quarters. And if I'm taken by surprise, I want to take them into my neighborhood where I know what to do. And that's usually going to come down to close quarters, where I can start eye raking, elbowing, kneeing, headbutting. Once again, the tools that are going to take out bigger, stronger people. So as we do that, we want to start from here. And when he goes ahead and he hooks, I just want to crash on in. Now, there's a lot of variations that we can use from this, and we have different videos covering what we call a block and hit, but we want to go ahead and just focus on the crash. So when we do that, we're going to go right here and then crash on in. So when he pulls back, get into position, and then just crash on in. Don't take it from a ready stance where my knees are not bent, my hands are not up, and I just crash right from here. Why? Because I didn't know this guy was going to attack me. This guy could go ahead and push me from behind, and as I pull around, boom, that's going to go just like that. I need to make sure that my training mimics that preamble by the flinch first. So we have the crash, and all we do is we go in here, and then he feeds the other side, and I go in here. Now, a lot of people ask, what do you do from there? Well, the sky's the limit. If you've seen any of my work talking about close quarters, there are so many different options that we have once we're in that range, ranging from takedowns to elbows to knee strikes. We can go ahead and we can hip toss someone if we want to. We can just push them over and get out the other way. We can follow up with boxing moves. There's so many different things we can do once we're in this position right here. Okay, so this video is not necessarily going to cover those follow-ups. It's just covering how we get there. And this is the first step. So get in your flinch reflex, crash, boom. Get in your flinch reflex, crash. If you guys want to take it from person turning you around and going right from here, that's cool. If you want to go ahead and you want to close your eyes and the person taps or pushes you and then do it, that's great. So if I go ahead and I'm closed here, you know, boom, that's fine too. My point is that do it any way you need to get used to that flinch reflex. So the first option is the crash. All right, the second option that we have right here off of our flinch reflex, especially defending up against a hook, is our cover. Now we go ahead and we cover. All we're doing here is we're starting from right here, the flinch reflex, and we're just simply covering. When I cover, I don't put my hand or arm out here so that arm can be hit and then reverberate back in my head. I grab the back of my head and I'm holding everything nice and tight. And I also like to turn in a little bit, once again, just to kind of absorb a little bit of that pressure. So as I go here and he feeds, boom, this is what I'm looking for. This is what I'm looking for. Let's do two of those again. Cover, cover. But notice I'm literally wrapping all the way around the back side of my head to hold this as tight as possible. If I have any kind of space, any kind of air, this is just going to go ahead and once again reverberate back and hit me, and that's what we do not want. So the cover from the flinch reflex is here and here. So I like to go ahead and always stack stuff. So we're going to go crash, crash, cover, cover. So as we do here, I crash, boom, from the flinch and then the cover, boom. Boom, all right? So that is the second option that we have. The third option that we have is what we call our bob and weave. Bob and weave, there's two steps to it, and a lot of people forget about the first step, which leads them to getting hit. We want to go ahead and we want to bob and weave. We want to make sure that we drop our altitude before stepping on out and under. So when we go ahead and we do that, remember, we're taking it from the flinch reflex. So from here, just bend your knees more and then step to the outside. So if Justin's feeding this move right here, I'm dropping and I'm moving out. The reason why I'm throwing this particular reaction in is that sometimes we might have a little bit of time. A push is a great example. If I go ahead and I get pushed and he pushed me off far enough away where now he has to engage and I see that hook coming maybe a little bit more, this gives me time where I could bob and weave, and that's exactly what I want to do here. So from here the technique is from the flinch we bob and we weave. From the other side, we bob and we weave. Let's break this down again. From the flinch reflex, which is just this, we're going to drop down and then step to the outside. We don't step to the inside. Let's take a look at what that looks like when we do it incorrectly. If he feeds that right and I bob and I come out this side, I'm just going ahead and standing back up into the line of the hook, and that's obviously what we do not want to do. So when we go ahead and we do that from the flinch reflex, here, step, and then once again, here, step. All right, so let's put everything together. What is our sequence? We crash, crash, cover, cover, bob and weave, bob and weave. So as we go here, we crash, we cover, and then we bob and weave. Good, just like that. And we do that over and over again. I'm going to go ahead and what we're going to do is we're going to move around a little bit more, the space right here, so you can kind of see this drill made just a little bit more alive. Stay with us. The next round, what we're gonna do, we're just gonna mix things up a little bit. And what I mean by that is that I can mix things up, meaning I don't have to go through a sequence. Sometimes I might crash and then I might follow that up with, let's say, a bob and weave. The other thing we might do is, you're gonna see me sometimes even closing my eyes. If I close my eyes and I have my hands down, Justin's gonna push me, and then that's gonna initiate the next couple feeds that he does. I may go ahead and turn around on him. He's gonna push me from behind and then go ahead and attack me from that position. All these different variations are very, very important to make sure that we put into our training so things get farther and farther away from being staged or choreographed. We wanna make sure that we're taken by surprise as much as possible within a training drill. So have fun watching this, and let's go.